Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about maintenance on the spark plug. And so we already showed you how to check the spark plug for wear if you got any life left in it. Oh, I should mention too, I forgot to finish that story about the spark plug being dropped twice. You can only drop them twice. The first time you drop it, and then the question is what happens the second time you drop it? You're dropping it in the garbage can. So that was the rest of that story. Okay, first of all, when you get ready to clean a plug, we talked about the socket you should use to take the plugs out and so on. But if a spark plug is very oily, like this one's got a sheen of oil on it, I wouldn't want to get that near, because you have this grit material. It's a special grit that's on here that can get all gummed up and whatever. So we want to make sure we take a spark plug down and wash it in some kind of solvent and get it dry before we get it near any of the cleaning equipment. Now, one of the first steps, quite often, like I said, we have a lot of problems with lead these days. And so if we have a spark plug has lead, let me slide this over, you can see it here. Over here, we have the vibrator box, like a little mini chisel that will reach up inside. It's got the proper tool, and that will basically chisel that hard clinker lead out of there. They're quite often referred to clinker. Where it got its name clinkers was when 100 low lead came about, in the 80s. When you took the spark plugs out and you still had the bottom cowling on, you could hear this like rocks sliding down the cowling, and they made that clink 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 noise. So that's why they got that nickname, clinkers, that are fouling up your spark plug. Okay, so after you're satisfied with your lead removal, then you're going to stick the spark plug over in the blaster. And so there's a little seal here, and then this thing here, there's this little adapter piece. I'll just leave it over here for right now because I don't have the air hooked up on this. But I, of course, would hit the button over here for air cleaner, and blast cleaner. Oh, so I got the blast, and this thing sits and rotates up here as you're doing the blasting of this, and it's shooting that grit up at the bottom of the spark plug there. And then, like I said, there is a air cleaning position where you blow it off with fresh air that way. And then I also want to make sure that my threads are extremely clean. So we do at our little station here, we've got a little brush that we can kind of wipe off the threads, because we don't want to get any kind of grit over into the threads, or especially into our cylinder heads, and destroy the threads on the cylinder. So I take the wire brush and clean that after it's been. I'm happy with the blasting job that I had there as well too. And then I would like to take a little, with my fingernail, take a rag and kind of spin around and make sure I got those threads really, really clean. Very, very important that those threads get cleaned up on that thing. Okay, so after I've got my did the vibration order, the lead out of it, then I blasted the plug itself, got all the carbon and whatever out of the thing. Okay, then I'm going to be concerned about my gap. So let me grab this little tool here, so I'll get him into the picture. So this is a little wire gauge, and I'm going to check the gap on the spark plug. And let me get something here real quick. So there's a little chart that's available that shows you all your different plugs. Also, Lycoming's got a special service instruction where the stuff's listed in there. But if you look at the gaps, most all of the spark plugs have about a 16 to 21 thousandths gap on them. So then this little tool that you have provided here, over on this side I got 15. Whoop, this one's missing, it's 15. Uh-oh, maybe it's on this side. There we go. So here we got my 15, and I got a 19 on this side. So what I want to do is I want to take this and check that gap, make sure it will move through the gap that's in the plug. If the gap is too wide, if we've had experienced some wear on it, then we're going to put it into the gapping tool. And there's all sorts of different types of gapping tools. Let me just pick you up here for a minute and move you over here. Here's one we have attached on our bench here. Fairly simple one. You thread your spark plug up into this thing. And then there's this little guy here, this little bullnose thing here, as you wind down against that ground electrode. There's more expensive type. So this one here is kind of like a double deal here, where that comes around and you smash it all at once. And this little tool here is about $600 for this particular one. Then there's a poor man's one. Oop, I don't think I got you in the picture there. Oh, sorry about that. That's this guy right here. And like I said, that one's about $600. And then here's a little poor man's guy with a, oopsie, losing it here. And it's another type of a gapping tool there. I don't know how much I got that in the picture there. Got the camera set up a little weird here. Okay. But the key thing when gapping, let me move this up just a pinch here. The main thing when gapping is as you're running the thing down with the wire gauge in there, you don't leave it stationary. You want to keep it moving through there. So there's a test question that we got to watch out for on that one, because if you had the wire just sitting there stationary and started smashing in on the ground electrode, it's possible to crack that nose core insulator inside the spark plug. So like I said, as you gap it down a little bit, then you try to feel, and because you're going to use the 15 thousandths, and then as soon as you feel the 15 thousandths, just start to drag on any part of the plug. You know, it could be 30 thousandths over here on one side of it, but as long as it's got the 15 over there, that's what you're after. And then, because the idea then is it will spring back out to be somewhere in that 16 to 21 thousandths range. Okay, so yeah, make sure you never just leave the wire in there while gapping, and that'd be an improper gapping procedure. There's a little note in the manual: if a spark plug is ever gapped too tight, they mention to contact the factory, but basically all they have you do is take like a little awl and kind of pry it a little bit and pry it back out. But the idea is you never should be moving a little ground electrode in, out, in, out. The idea is they just constantly move in as they wear throughout their life. Okay, so we got the lead out, we grit blasted it, cleaned the fresh air, especially made sure our threads were good and clean, and then it's time to test the spark plug. So in testing the spark plug, what we're doing, you're utilizing air pressure, and you can adjust your air pressure over here on this thing, where you adjust up to simulate that higher pressure in the cylinder. The higher the pressure in the cylinder, the harder it is for a spark plug to jump the gap. Okay, and so what you're going to be doing, you mount the spark plug in here, and here you can see this, and then I'll attempt to get this in the picture. We'll see what happens here. If you look down there, there's a mirror that's looking back up at the plug, and then the idea is I can see that. Doggone camera keeps falling all over the place here. Sorry about that. I can look down in there and see the spark sparking away. It can just jump on one side, it can jump both, as long as it sparks. And then you'll see that get brighter as I increase the air pressure. That spark would get brighter in there. Now you want to be careful of this bench here. Okay, I'll give you a little demonstration here on this guy. In fact, let me just turn the light off on this guy here so you can see it a little bit better. And maybe that one too. And but you can see this thing spark. So you don't want to get in between that and the spark plug gap on this thing. So you get ready, it's one of those things where clear, and then you go ahead and hit the little button there. So yeah, you want to be careful of that guy. Okay. Where are we at here? Hang on just a second. When adjusting the gap on the fine wire plug, they have a little tool here that can actually grip the fine wire there, and you can adjust them around. Just kind of a little pry bar guy goes on there, and you can adjust the gap with the little fine wire. So it's just labeled a CT457 fine wire gap tool. So that's what that's got. Now, and then when installing the plugs, most shops will recommend, hang on just a second. So when you're installing the plug, most shops will recommend that you just put some engine oil, and it should be the ashless dispersant oil, because they say the mineral oil can actually tend to lock a plug tighter in a cylinder if it glazes up inside there. So a little bit of ashless dispersant oil on the threads. But Champion does provide an anti-seize compound, but mechanics can have a tendency, this is a 2612 spark plug thread lubricant and anti-seize compound. But used properly, this is good stuff. But what's crazy about this stuff is, well, let me read the directions on the back to you here. Shake well before using. Apply the compound sparingly to the second and third installation threads with the small brush provided. Make sure the compound does not contact the electrodes, as this material is conductive and will short out the spark plug. Do not apply to the shielding barrel threads. Yeah, so we never put any of that anti-seize compound up here. Okay, so when you do this stuff, if you use this kind of a, so you got your little brush here, and this is what's crazy about this. So proper application of this stuff is, you watch very carefully, I'm just gonna go, and that was it. You notice I didn't go all the way around. I just barely down the second and third thread, and that was it. You almost feel like you're not doing anything at all. Like, you know, the old bit with if a little works, a whole lot shall work a lot better. Not in the case of that stuff. So second and third thread, and because, you know, most mechanics feel like they're not doing anything, they tend to apply too much of it and end up shorting out the plug. It can also build up inside the cylinder over a period of time too if it's used a lot. And we've actually had some cylinders that had some misfiring problems due to the excessive buildup of that anti-seize lead compound up in the cylinder head. Oh, one thing I almost forgot about was this was actually started by Tempest. And so on your Oral and Practical, you'll want to identify this as part of the cleaning and testing procedure. So where we tested the spark plug in that manner on that bench, there's also a process where they want you to take a multimeter and, you know, and then that tool, let me grab that tool just a second. It's taking longer than I planned. Oh, there we go. All right. So you got this guy, which will reach up inside the spark plug and come in contact with the contact point up in there. And then what I would do is I would put my multimeter, you know, connect here and then down on the center electrode, because I want to check the resistance of that resistor. And in the Tempest propaganda here, they actually even build a special tester for testing your spark plug. They just go buy some lights, and then you get a green light, you're good to go. Red light, it's bad. But they say that at 5,000 ohms, your spark plug should be replaced. And so, you know, for many, many years, Champion spark plugs never had a problem. But then somewhere, you know, they try to save money or something. Something happened to where those resistors in the spark plug could actually start to wear, and were having problems. And so, so Tempest really went after that as some of their sales pitch, because they have some kind of a glass resistor in there that doesn't have the same kind of problems as Champion is their advertising stuff. But anyway, so, but on the Oral and Practical, as part of your testing a spark plug, examiner might expect you to ohm out a spark plug, at least know where to connect. And so again, or have some kind of something that'll reach up inside there, but this is supplied on that bench there, and cleaning tool. And so center electrode down here to the other end up here, and it should not exceed the 5,000 ohms. Of course, if you have a type of plug, I got quite a few of those around here that do not, you know, they're just a HB, they don't have the R in the front. So it does, when it says there's nothing indicated, that means there's no resistor in there. But most of the plugs these days are of the resistor type. Okay, so that should wrap up our spark plug maintenance. And just looking around to see if I see anything else that got here on spark plugs. So then there'll be another video I'm going to give you where we're going to go through the worksheet number 2 that asks us a whole bunch of questions about the spark plug, see how we did in review. You probably, I think I'm deciding on this too, is, this topic, ignition starting, is, clearing your second quarter, and you guys have been out there working on run stands, so we'll have included this video back in the front theory section, or when we first started working on our engines, and because you'll be having to deal with spark plugs quite a bit out there on the run stands. Okay, that'll wrap this up.